Well, our 15-year-old daughter received a 23andMe thing for her birthday from a friend. And of course, it said we weren't related. Only her brother and I seemed to be related. So I did a paternity test afterwards, and lo and behold, she wasn't my effing child. Welcome back to They Did What? Your source for the internet's craziest, most entertaining stories, where I go over them, analyze them, and most certainly make fun of them. Today, gonna go over a story titled, "My beloved wife cheated on me and my daughter isn't mine. How can I move forward as well as shake these angry feelings?" And guys, this is all about a guy. He's been married for like 21 years, and in his mind, he had a pretty darn good marriage. Rarely arguing, rarely fighting, all that. And then his daughter turned 15, and for her birthday did the 23andMe test to find out about your ancestry and your background and where you came from and all that. And lo and behold, found out with the test that this wasn't his kid. That all along for 15 years, the daughter he thought was his wasn't. And his wife, who he thought was so wonderful, his beloved wife, as he's calling her, back in the day cheated on him, and he's raising some other dude's child. And it never ceases to amaze me how this has been popping up more and more ever since these DNA tests have become more of a thing, right? I think it's Ancestry and 23andMe and all that, and it must be scaring the crap out of a lot of women out there that knew darn well that they had an affair going on during the marriage or before the marriage or whatever, you know. And I got to tell you, more and more as I do these stories, it shows why I think a paternity test is necessary before any guy puts that name on the birth certificate or goes and gets married because the woman's pregnant or whatever. So I'm going to go through this, guys, and you're going to see here, by the way, he finds this out and confronts his wife, and his wife is losing her mind because he's done with her. And on top of that, her kids don't want to have anything to do with her. So, starts off, he says, this is going to be a long one. My wife and I were married for 21 years. I figure it was one of those miracle marriages because we barely argued, and it seems like we were always the best of friends, etc. Well, our 15-year-old daughter received a 23andMe thing for her birthday from a friend. And of course, it said we weren't related. He says she had me do a swab as well as her mother and the 14-year-old brother. Only her brother and I seem to be related. So I did a paternity test afterwards, and lo and behold, she wasn't my effing child. My ex-wife cried and pleaded for me to hear her out, but I just went numb to her. What are you going to hear out? You've been lying to me for 15 years, or technically 16 because she was carrying the child. What's there to hear about? Okay? You obviously chose me because you knew I'd make a better provider than the chatter Tyrone you cheated with. It'd be one thing to cheat, but to find out the light of my life isn't even related to me killed me. Don't get me wrong, I love my daughter with all my heart. She's still my daughter no matter what. Hey, if she's a great daughter to you and she's loving and kind and all that, and she will after this information comes out, great. But if she finds this stuff out and she starts becoming an a-hole towards you, then it's like, well, hey, if you're going to be a jerk, then hit the road. But that's not the case here. But what's scaring me the most is my seemingly vindictive desires. I've never been like this, and I know it's out of anger. But I want her to suffer so bad. The wife. The kids absolutely hate her, which on one end helps that desire. But I know deep down she's still their mother, and I don't really want them to hate her. Her parents and siblings are all mortified at her. Her sister hasn't spoken to her in a couple months. He says we all grew up together, so it hit hard for everyone. Again, this makes me feel great, which in turn scares me, because I don't actually want her life to go into shambles. But I can't help but feel great when I learn something in her life is falling apart. That's natural. I'd be fuming too, beyond fuming. And I'm sure there's one guy watching this video that's probably been in a situation like this and found out that his kid wasn't his. And I guarantee whoever's watching this that's been in that situation felt the same thing. You want to see her get some payback because, quite frankly, she deserves it. Both children are living with me now as they don't view their mother in a favorable light at all at the moment. I'm thinking about having the talk about them going to talk to her because as of now, they refuse. The part that breaks my heart the most is that my daughter seems to be overcompensating her roles of a daughter. She makes sure to tell me how much she loves me and is, in essence, being the perfect daughter. But I can tell it's because she knows that she isn't biologically mine, but she desperately wants me to know how much she values me. I'm actually going to talk to her tonight about that, to tell her that she doesn't have to act differently. I just really want to know how to shake the sadness and the anger, the angry, vindictive feelings. I want to move forward as well as help my children move forward so they can worry about school and being teens. Please, any advice will help. Well, this guy's being a really good guy about this, and that's sad that the kids are going through this shit. Thanks, Mom. But they're going to obviously deal with it the way they know best, and I would just be there for them and say, you want to talk? Or maybe if it gets out of hand, offer maybe counseling. That's an option. But in my opinion, forcing them to go talk to her or any other thing is not a good idea at this juncture. And as for his daughter, this is a perfect example. See how she's doing overcompensating to show how much she loves him and is there for him and all that? This is what women do when there's uncertainty. Right? When they feel that the man they love in their life, whether it's their father or love interest, that may walk away from them. Look how she's acting right here. And, it's not her fault. And it is, on the one hand, it's sad, obviously, but also it's an example why I tell you guys, most powerful thing a guy can do is walk away when she crosses the line, or she knows that he'll walk away. See how she's acting right here? I get it's different with a father and daughter situation, but women are women. And it's about the whole uncertainty thing and walking away. Anyhow, he has an update. He says, for some clarification, we did talk about it, and it was in the fair. I just didn't want to write that part out because it physically makes me shake with anger to talk about it. My daughter and I are both in therapy. Not a bad idea. I am taking the advice of my therapist and the many commenters on the latest post, and I'm not going to force my kids to talk to their mother. Very smart. You don't want them resenting you. They'll do it when they're ready. They are old enough to understand the gravity of the situation, have their own feelings about it. Because of this, they will need to take their own time gathering up how they feel and dealing with it, with any help they need from me, of course. The pain my daughter is going through seems to have healed somewhat. I've gotten her to fully believe that my love for her will never change, and she will always be my daughter. Her pain seems not to be about relationship anymore, but her newly found trust issues and trauma from the family being broken apart. Yeah, first it's the family being broken apart and finding out that her dad isn't her dad, and the brother is a half-brother. That'd mess with anybody, especially a very emotional, hormonal 15-year-old girl whose emotions are like an earthquake chart. She's also confided in me that she feels like it's all her fault, and that if she never brought the kid home, the family would still be together. It's not her fault. It's her mother's fault. I hugged her and let her know that none of this was her fault and that she was only looking to do something fun with the family. She had no idea what would happen and that she should never blame herself. Good job, Dad. Absolutely. Give her the hug, the reassurance, all that. I had one conversation with my soon-to-be ex in which she begged and pleaded for me to forgive her and that she would cherish me for the rest of her life. Too late, honey. She said it was stupid and it meant nothing and she regrets it 100%. She also said she believes our love can withstand it. I told her that if our love was as strong, she wouldn't have felt the need to find a S-word comfort in someone else. Exactly. She is currently staying with her parents. I've communicated with her sister, and apparently she's borderline thinking of offing herself. They're trying to get her help, but she refuses, as the only thing she wants to do is see me and the children. Because of this, I'm waiting to serve her the divorce papers. I don't want to add any more things to destroy her mental health. I brought up talking to her with my son and daughter, too, which they adamantly refused. I'm going to respect their wishes and give them their own time to cope. Respect their wishes. Now, this ending herself talk may be a last-ditch effort to try to get this guy to talk to her, give her a second chance. That is a strong possibility. But if it seems like she's going to off herself, as much as this guy's angry, this is the mother of his kids, and he doesn't want her to do that, even though they're angry, because that will mess him up to a whole new level. And, nobody wants to be responsible for somebody offing themselves, so he needs to handle it carefully. I have this nagging feeling that she does not actually care about how it made any of us feel, that she only cares about the fact that she's about to lose her picture-perfect family and the comfortable life that we had. And that's her fault. I have no desire to try to fix the relationship and move forward. That's all for now. Well, after all these years, you got to know her pretty well. And yeah, probably is just trying to fix her perfect situation that doesn't care so much about how she made him feel or the kids feel. And that's how these selfish a-holes usually operate. Last update. He says, it's been a long time, so I figured I would give you guys one last update. My daughter is doing a lot better. That's good to hear. Our relationship seems to actually gotten stronger since this whole thing started. And it's not even an act. We hang out more and have a lot of heart-to-heart conversations. She went to her mother's parents' house to see her mother. From what I heard, she mostly just talked to her grandparents and didn't say much to her mom. My son is also doing fine. His experience is different from my daughter's because he actually is my child. That's a big part of it, and also he's a boy, and boys are just different. He's still angry at his mom for betraying me, but he's coming around and talked to her more when they went to visit her. He's still hesitant, but he's a protective little brother and hates that his sis felt awful. I actually gave him credit for keeping her sane. He's talked to her, went on walks with her, and he didn't give up. He didn't give up on her. I told him that I was proud of him for sticking by her side. I also talked to him about how he feels because I realized that during all of this, I kind of dismissed him since he was my biological child. But he's going through this stuff too, and we have many talks now, and he's in IC. So, things are improving. I don't know the time frame of these different updates. I didn't take the time to research that, but the good news is they're healing and things are improving. And that's usually, the saying is time heals all wounds. Now, I don't think it heals all wounds, but it certainly can help alleviate things in time. As for my wife, now listen to some of this. As for my wife, I tried to do marriage counseling to see if there was any hope. Now that's a waste of time and money at this point. I tried to believe her and that it was only an affair and that the only affair and that she didn't know what she was. She didn't know she was carrying her child, but it didn't work out. I couldn't look at her or speak to her at marriage counseling, and when I did say something, it was just about how bad it made me feel. She would sob and beg on her knees, but it didn't change anything. I hear these stories when the wife screws up and they're marriage counseling, and these stories, they talk about her getting on her knees. Like she was actually on her knees at the marriage counseling session. I mean, imagine the stories these therapists and marriage counselors could tell if they could do so. I know they're supposed to keep it quiet. I couldn't believe that she never cheated again. And I believe she knew it wasn't her child, but just chose me because I was the safest bet. Ding, ding, ding. There you go. She knew her Chatter Tyrone affair partner wasn't going to be the one to give her the white picket fence in the house in the suburbs, but this dude was, and that's why she chose him. I've been played like a fool, and I'm done with it. I served her at her parents' house, and she flew into hysterics. She screamed at the top of her lungs on the ground. Oh, great. I couldn't understand a word she was saying, but I just felt numb to it. Her mother tried to beg me to forgive her, but her father just walked me out to the front door and without saying a word, gave me a firm handshake and nod with a face that said, I completely understand. Thank the Lord the father-in-law is understandable to this guy's situation. It's always the mothers of these women that, beg the guy for a second chance or find a reason that's his fault. But it's the fathers almost always that are apologetic for their daughter's actions. Thank the Lord. We got into contact with my daughter's, her biological dad, and got his medical information. She said she doesn't want anything to do with him because she's already has a dad. I'm not going to try and talk her out of it either, though I do have fear that one day she'll want to contact him and become very close to him, and that all fade away. But I try to push that idea in the back of my mind and only let it out during the IC. I wouldn't worry about that. I think it's good for her to find out who it is, and that way she can know a medical history, because that will come back later in time to see, what potential diseases and things could impact her down the road. It could be skin cancer or whatever, These are good things to know just for the history. That's where we are now. Me and the kids are trying our best to push through it. This will most likely be the last update unless something big happens, which I doubt. Thank you to everyone who helped me and checked up on me. I really appreciate all the help and advice. So there you go, guys. Yet another story about a family that they thought everything was great and was ruined when that DNA test was taken, and it's not the girl's fault, and find out that the wife had been lying all this time and she had a boyfriend back in the day and somebody else's child. It really is sad, and these poor kids are completely effed up from this whole thing, and so is he, But I think as more and more these things get out, I think every girl gets pregnant, he needs to know. And to start before he signs that birth certificate or marries the woman or something like that. Because how many of these stories come out? It's unbelievable. And again, now, these stories and the revelations that come from the paternity tests and the 23andMe and Ancestry must scare the crap out of a whole lot of women out there that were doing the dirty early on but chose the safer bet type of guy. So I wish this guy all the best. They'll be fine. He'll be fine, all that. And the hell with the ex. That's her problem. So, all right, guys, that was it for today. Be sure to comment down below. Let me know what you think about this. Let me know, guys. Have you or anybody you've known ever taken one of these tests and found out something that was completely off the wall? I'd like to hear about it. By all means, share. And also, guys, if you have a really good story like to share, something entertaining or outrageous or something be good for this channel, email it to me, strongsuccessfulmale@gmail.com. Just give me time and I'll get to it when I get a chance. And be sure to like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe. And I'll catch you next time.